Hello, everyone. This is Dale Petroskey, the President and CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber, along with John Olajide, who's the founder and CEO of Axxess and the 2020 chair of the Dallas Regional Chamber. John?
Hey, Dale, thank you.
I thought what we'd do is, first of all, apologize a little bit that the virtual town hall that we had scheduled didn't have enough bandwidth. So we decided to record this for you, and we'll put it up on the web just as soon as possible so you have the information you need from us. And I really wanted to stress how wonderful it was to see the outpouring of interest in this. We had 600 people who quickly signed up for this particular virtual town hall, our first. There were 25 regional partner cities involved, all sectors of the economy, large companies, small companies, nonprofits. So I think that there's a real hunger for this type of information out into the community during this time. What I'd like to do is kind of put some context around why we're doing these, and then what we promise to do in each one of these virtual town halls. And then you'll hear from John, and then we'll start a little conversation. But first of all, why are we doing these? We're doing them because we believe that during these times, you can't over communicate. People can't get enough information, that they're, especially from trusted sources. And so we are doing virtual town halls. John and I are kicking this one off. But next week, it'll be Dr. Huang, who is the top medical authority for the county of Dallas. And then beyond that, you'll be hearing from experts in a lot of other fields as well. And we believe that getting information in a timely manner will help your businesses navigate these difficult times. And what we promise to answer in every one of these conversations is, what's the impact for you? What does it mean for you? What's the impact for your organization? What's the impact for the region, the state, the United States, and globally? And then what can you do? What can we do to help you navigate during these times? So we are confirmed for next Wednesday for Dr. Huang, who is as I mentioned, the top healthcare authority in the county of Dallas. It'll be 1 o'clock next Wednesday. We'll have something up and running on the site. We decided not to do live town halls going forward simply because the bandwidth is a big issue around the country right now. In fact, the White House had to cancel a call the other day because of bandwidth issues. So we're just going to make it easy for everybody to understand that these are going to be posted on the website going forward, and we will send out information ahead of time so that you know when they're going to be posted. Things over to you and hear from you.
Thank you, Dale. This is unprecedented times for all of us, for the entire world. And I know Dale and I have been on several conversations with leaders throughout our community as we work together to get our community through this. Late last night, as I was getting ready for today's presentation, I was having a conversation with my daughter, and she was asking what I was doing. And I shared with her that we are working as leaders together to get our community through this crisis, and that I will be having a conversation with leaders throughout the community today. And I asked my daughter, I said, so what do you think I should say tomorrow? What are your thoughts about it? Because she's seen a lot of coverage on TV and has engaged me in a lot of conversations as well. She said, Daddy, just share what you believe in and why. And that's for my 8-year-old daughter. Before I get into all my remarks today, I just want to say 3 things that I believe in that are crucial for a time like this as we work together as a community to get us through this. First of all, I believe we're all in this together. COVID-19 is a strong reminder that we're all connected. And what afflicts one afflicts all. Secondly, it's important that we have strong, coordinated leadership at this time. Very important. Thirdly, all our organizations should be a force for good. We need everyone banding together to make this work. Over the past few days, I've heard lots of references to World War II as a time in history when people felt a lot of fear and uncertainty, similar to what we're facing today. And as I reflected on this time in history, I was reminded of Sir Winston Churchill's famous address of June 1940. This is almost 80 years ago. This was just over a month after he took over as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Hitler had swept through France. The Battle of Britain was just 3 weeks away. As you can imagine, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, similar to what we're dealing with today. Sir Winston Churchill concluded his remarks by saying that let us brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire, its Commonwealth, lasts for 1,000 years, men will say this was their finest hour. Also, he said, one ought never to turn one's back on a threatened danger and try to run away from it. If you do that, you will double the danger. You and I know that with COVID-19, if we turn our backs, we will more than double the danger. Sir Churchill went on to say, but if you meet it promptly and without flinching, you will reduce the danger by half. Again, for COVID-19, we must flatten the curve and do so quickly. He went on to say, it's no use saying that we're doing our best. We've got to succeed in doing what is necessary. I want you all to know that we must meet all our current challenges with confidence and resolve. And we must succeed, and we will. We've gone through 9/11, we've gone through the recent recession in the late 2000s, and we will get through this as well. As business leaders, we have an essential role to play in combating the public crisis, this public crisis, and keeping everyone safe through our leadership, resolve, expertise, innovation, and resources. We must do all we can to keep our economy going. In my role as chair, I presided over a conference call with the DRC's executive committee on Tuesday, and it affirmed how fortunate we are to be part of such a caring community in our Dallas region. Leaders from companies big and small are stepping up to galvanize the community, protect the health of our neighbors and the livelihoods of those who will be significantly impacted during this challenging time. The Edelman Trust Barometer just came out with findings that at times like this, people are looking at business leaders to be a source of good information and appropriate action. This is the perfect time for the business community to demonstrate that business is a force for good. There are three things that we must do. We must galvanize our entire community, our political leaders, our community leaders, our business leaders, for collective action to keep our communities safe. We must protect our people's livelihoods, as I said earlier, and keep our economy going, and mobilize cooperation and coordination, business support for the COVID-19 response. I am proud to share with you that a joint statement for the leading business organizations in our community will be going out shortly. We are united and we are working together. There are so many examples we heard during our meeting of businesses foregoing revenues and profits to take care of our community. And we're seeing this across the world. Major consumer companies and retailers closing their doors to ensure that people don't congregate together. It should be reassuring to all of us that we're truly all in this together. So then I just wanted to get that message out to kick this off, and I'm over to you.
I think that's wonderful, John. And you know, the call you referenced, that was our executive committee call the other day, really showed how complex and far-reaching this challenge is, from the medical aspects of it to the airlines, to our utilities, to increased cybersecurity risks, to inspectors not being available for builders, to the challenges of many of our kids being out of school and with no tools to learn at home. And yet at the same time, lots of companies doing so many good things. And the things that have come, and you know, the chamber is sort of the central point of contact for a lot of companies in a lot of ways. And here's the things I've learned just in the last day or two. Texas Instruments has given $250,000 to United Way of Dallas to help with the needs of our community. AT&T is offering unlimited bandwidth. Toyota has offered to help with the testing in the county of Dallas and the surrounding counties so that people can get through faster and we can test more people more quickly. Bank of America announced a $100 million gift to communities around the world so that they can work with people on the ground in communities most affected by this. The Parvin Group, which is a law firm here in town, is offering free estate planning for people 70 years and older through the end of April. The Jacobs Group, Bob Pragata of the Jacobs Group called and said, you know, we have a lot of operations in Seattle and San Francisco and other places that were affected first by this. We can put the mayor's office, the county judge's office in touch with all the people we know, and they maybe can get up to speed a little bit quicker. Borden Dairy, the people who make the milk, Tony Sarsam told me the other day they're losing 17% of their sales. That's 17, because schools are closing, and 17% of their sales go to schools. They want to offer that milk for the public good. So I put them in touch with folks with the state of Texas. The Mavs, the Dallas Mavericks, are putting $100,000 into our community to help out. So on and on and on. There's a lot of good being done, but there are a lot of people hurting. The restaurant industry is hurting in a big way, and a lot of them who have never served meals outside of their own restaurants before are now doing takeout orders and to-go orders and so forth. We need to support these organizations and these companies during this tough time.
Absolutely, Dale. Absolutely. I agree with you totally. Couldn't agree more. And I think it's important also, Dale, to share sources of accurate information for everyone in the community. You know, you mentioned the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It's important that at this time, yes, we want to communicate, but where people get information matters a lot. So just want to share with folks that, you know, the CDC is a great source of information. Their website is a great source of information. The World Health Organization is a great source of information as well. The Red Cross, they have lots of information on safety and readiness. That's a great source of information. And then, of course, the DRC website. I know we're ramping up efforts as we speak. Make sure we're providing a ton of information on the DRC website to help our member companies and help the entire community. I know you will speak about that some more later, Dale. I just wanted to really underscore how important it is at this time that people have sources of accurate information.
Yes, John, absolutely. Thank you for that. You know, we got together last Saturday as a senior team at the DRC, and we said, what can we do to be of service to our members and to this community? And we came up with two things. One is communications, providing that trusted, accurate information all the time, fresh information that people can use to navigate their own lives right now and their own companies' lives. And then member engagement. We cannot do enough communicating with our members, talking with them, finding out what their needs are right now, keeping our ear to the ground. What more can we be doing to help our member companies? And so we've developed a website, a go-to website that I hope our members and those on the call or those watching this will go to every single day. And it has things like what John just talked about, the medical information from the CDC and the World Health Organization. It has information about the latest from the city of Dallas, our county governments, our state, what's the governor doing, what's happening at the federal level with the new legislation that just passed Congress. We are also highlighting, as John said, those companies that are a force for good, the ones that I mentioned a few minutes ago that are doing so many things to step up and help our community. We'll also have information from experts like Rob Kaplan, the president of our Dallas Fed, who will make sense of why the interest rate went to where it went last week and what the future looks like for the economy. So there's lots of information on that website. It's changing daily. We have a news team that we've assembled within our DRC. They'll be doing stories and putting fresh information up every day. And we're trying to point people there every day to get the latest information on the medical situation, what our public officials have decreed in terms of what's open and what's not open, how we can connect displaced workers to jobs, because there will be displaced workers through all this, but there are also companies that are hiring, companies like Amazon, companies like janitorial services, companies like the grocery stores that need more and more help. So we're trying to connect people in need of jobs with jobs that are open. And so that's really what we're trying to do our part right now, John, to help people in the best way we possibly can.
Excellent. Thank you, Dale, for sharing that. And, we've at the DRC, I know we've done this work for many years, making sure we can do all we can to keep our community strong and the best place to live. And even at this difficult time, we're leaning in to do all we can to help our member companies go through this. And I think it'll be helpful at this point to even share some of the things that we're hearing. I know we did a member survey that you'll probably reference later, where we're hearing from our members about different things that they're seeing, and even some stories from our executive committee meeting. I'm sure our member companies want to know what other businesses are doing, what they're seeing. And some of our member companies on the DFW airport and American Airlines, for instance, are just part of one industry that's being affected. On Tuesday, for instance, the U.S. Travel Association said they project a decreased travel due to the coronavirus will inflict over $800 billion damages on the U.S. economy and eliminate 4.6 million travel-related jobs. And I'm saying this because really we want to put the impact of this challenge in context so everyone knows what's really going on and share that information. You and I have access to a lot of information. We're talking to lots of different people and we're seeing things. It's important to help our community also understand what's going on. And the 4.6 million travel-related jobs lost will nearly double the current U.S. unemployment rate, and that doesn't include jobs in the manufacturing sector, like Toyota and other member organizations, or the financial sector, or employment agencies, or the association world, and any number of industries that depend on a strong economy. I've had conversations even just last night with leaders in the real estate world. They're bracing themselves for the impact to their industry too. We're all rightly focused on the healthcare crisis, but all our, and I learned a new expression that I think it's important that I share at this point, Dale. We've talked a lot about social distancing, and that's great. But, it's important that at this time we maintain social connections. So really what we're talking about is physical distancing. I had a conversation right before this call with a leading healthcare practitioner in our community, and he said, we don't call it social distancing, we call it physical distancing. So it's important that as we are trying to get through this, it's important that you maintain all the social connections you have, because you need them more than ever to get through this. What you must do is ensure you maintain physical distancing. Well, all this physical distancing will have major consequences for a lot of small businesses in particular. For instance, 83% of travel employers are small businesses. And total spending on travel in the U.S., transportation, lodging, retail, attractions, and restaurants, is projected to plunge by almost $400 billion for the year. That's about 31%. To put that in context so everyone understands what we're talking about here, that's a lot more than the impact of 9/11. So the situation that we're dealing with today is totally without precedent. Well, clearly, when people are not moving around, it affects our entire economy. There's a trickle-down effect for every community because people aren't flying or driving. They're not staying in hotels. They're not spending money at restaurants and at shops and stores and local communities. And when people lose their jobs throughout the economy, they won't be able to spend money on leisure activities, and all the discretionary spending is gone. So as when we restrict travel and do all those lockdowns, as we showed, it impacts everything. And I've been on several calls, for instance, with Craig Davis of Visit Dallas, the CEO at Visit Dallas. Dill, you've been on those calls too. And he shared that prior to COVID-19, we had some hotel occupancy rates at over 90%. And several of them have plunged to single-digit occupancy rates as we speak. You know, we also heard from Sean Donahue, the CEO of DFW Airport, and he shared that in his over 35 years experience in the aviation industry, he's never seen anything like this. This is worse than 9/11 or the recession we saw in the late 2000s. You know, but as I said earlier, we'll get through this. And on one of our calls, we heard from our leaders in the financial sector, the bank leaders, sharing that, you know, as we think about all this healthcare hygiene and personal hygiene to deal with COVID-19, it's also important to think about cyber hygiene. And we'll need to pay attention to that more than ever before, because there are lots of bad actors that are trying to take advantage of the crisis and launching cyber attacks. As you all know, all our organizations are only as strong as our weakest link. Therefore, we all must remain vigilant and practice cyber hygiene, excellent cyber hygiene. And it's really basic do's and don'ts. If you get in emails or communications from sources that you don't trust, don't open them up. Don't use public Wi-Fi that you don't trust. It's basic things like that. You know, it's important that as we are practicing all this personal hygiene, it's important that we practice cyber hygiene as well. And I know, Dale, you heard some of those comments as well. I'm sure there's more that you can share as well.
John, that's really good overview of what's going on. You know, we in Dallas region have two of the largest airlines in the world. We have the largest airline in the world, American Airlines, headquartered here, and we have the largest domestic airline in the United States, headquartered here, Southwest Airlines. And nobody's going to be devastated more than the airline industry through this. And that, of course, impacts DFW Airport in a huge way, and it impacts Love Field in a very big way. You could just hear the concern in American Airlines voice, or in Derek Kerr's voice the other day from American Airlines on the call. The other things, you know, it's just so wide, and the Craig Davis statistic that you cited, that's devastating. 90% of the rooms are occupied for this month and the coming month a few weeks ago, and now it's 10%. And so the travel industry and the airline industry, the hotels, the restaurants, they just get they get it probably more than anybody else. But so we need to be very mindful and try to be as helpful as we possibly can with them. The call the other day, the executive committee call, also brought up a couple of other things. One is containment. I mean, Barclay Burdan of Texas Health Instruments and Gary Brock.
Texas Health Resources.
Yes, Health Resources, Texas Health Resources, and then Gary Brock of Baylor Scott and White Health talked about how important it is to contain the virus, and that's the flattening of the curve that you talked about. So they're racing against time right now to do that, so they don't get overwhelmed. Debbie Dennis of Encore talked about that during storm seasons, and there's a storm season that's coming up. In the past, they would get people on loan from other states to come in and help out. Well, that's probably not going to happen now. So that will impact that industry. Then you mentioned cyber hygiene. Jennifer Chandler talked about helping kids in local communities, kids that are out of school and so forth, and that we really need them. We need people to be teaching during this time, if at all possible, and kids need to have access to information so they can keep learning. That's a big challenge. We talked about reaching out to DART and seeing that people who are displaced, maybe they have to go to a new place of work. How can we help get them to work at their new place of work by working with DART on some of those routes? So it just goes on and on. It seems like there's nobody that's not affected through this through what's going on with COVID-19.
Absolutely, Dale. Absolutely, this is totally unprecedented. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of leadership being shown in our community already. You mentioned Atmos Energy and Encore and what they're doing to make sure folks stay connected. And you also talked about what AT&T is doing around broadband to make sure citizens, have access to critical information that they need to get through this. So we're trying to figure out how, for those that are working from home, I know you will probably cover that later. For those that are working from home, or even folks that have to keep going to work where their children are out of school, childcare is a big issue. How do people address that? How do we, and the challenge is, how long will this go for? What's going to happen? I think it's I think it'll be helpful even at this point to just some of the things that we're doing at Axxess, for instance, over the past couple of weeks, and what we've learned and what's changed for us, because we're impacted by this too in some ways. Axxess, my company, provides technology solutions for organizations that provide care in the home. So our clients are serving the population identified as being most susceptible to COVID-19. And to be sensitive to our clients and the people they serve, we made an early decision to help stem the spread of COVID-19 by allowing people to work from home. And we suspended all travel until further notice. Those are difficult decisions to make because we know how that impacts the economy overall. We also felt a great responsibility to do our part to stem the spread of the virus. In addition, we created a COVID-19 response team. And already, emergency preparedness and infection control tools and resources are a part of our suite of software solutions. It's always been there. But now what we're doing is training our clients and the entire industry on what those resources are, where they are, how to use them. We're putting those resources right in front of them. So as soon as they're logging into our software, it's right in front of them. Just leveraging page takeovers. We want to make sure we're getting useful information out as quickly as possible to as wide an audience as possible to help our clients get through this. We've also put up resources on our website to help our clients find quick access to the most up-to-date information from authoritative sources. And we immediately shared best practices for emergency preparedness, infection control, and establishing effective communications processes to make sure employees and clients get the best information. We've already established a timeline for a series of communications, webinars, blogs, and email communications to provide thought leadership for our industry. So the name of the game here is communicate, and then more communication. You cannot over-communicate at this time. So we're practicing what we preach as well. So we're just working on this to make sure that the right things happen for our clients as well, and getting all the information out there to help them be successful.
John, it's follow on your encouragement to communicate and then over communicate. One thing we're doing, instead of just putting things up on our website, is as we hear of best practices happening, or we hear of people, companies doing things for good, or something news comes out, we'll be writing about that, and then through social media pushing that out to our members so they know immediately that it's out there, and then putting it up on our website. So there's an immediacy to this as well, rather than just having something in a static website. So the rapid response to all of this is really important as well, I think.
Go ahead.
There's some questions that the audience that was going to be live with us had sent in ahead of time, and I thought maybe we might go to some of those if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Bill. Let's do that.
Okay. I think you just talked about this one. How do you manage your business while keeping employee safety top of mind? How, as a leader, how are you managing through the threat? how do you maintain employee engagement and morale? Those seem to be on top of everybody's minds.
Right.
And I think that's really important. What impact do you believe this will have on housing is a question. And I'll throw that to you.
Those are all excellent questions, Dale. And as you mentioned, those are things that are on everyone's mind. I mentioned earlier that we've, before this whole COVID-19 crisis, we were a partial virtual, work from home organization. We have folks spread out in nationwide because we serve clients in all 50 states and internationally. So we've always had people working from home. We went from that to being 100% virtual now, where everyone is required to work from home. And so what we need to do is incorporate, just get out there and get information on what best practices are on how we can make this work. I've instructed our leadership team and all our leaders to make sure they're touching base with their teams at least daily and more frequently. It's interesting. Before this call, we're having a conversation, and we said, hey, we should have a virtual happy hour to get people's spirits up and keep them engaged. It's very important. There are ways to do that. And it's important to let folks know that we're in this together. It's important that we're totally transparent at all times on all communications, and we should be communicating frequently. And you cannot overemphasize that. And as far as dealing with the threats of layoffs and all that, the reality is, in this situation, no one organization can get through this alone. We have to be totally connected. So, for instance, at Axxess, we don't have any plans at all, candidly, to lay people off. That's not crossed our minds at all. We believe at Axxess, that the future of healthcare is in the home. Well, that future that we've always talked about and believed in is here now. Telehealth and telemedicine and some of those things that we all know about. And we're supporting a lot of efforts to accelerate the right public policies to make the right change. And I'm excited that at the federal level, a lot of those things are happening now to make sure that any red tape or any obstacles to making sure folks can get the care they need at the right time or being eliminated. I'll give you one quick example, Dale. Now in our industry, the federal government has made it possible for medical practitioners to be able to work across state lines. That's very, very important, so that folks can get the care they need in real time. That's very important. And then also, prior to now, there were some challenges with the lockdown where maybe some medical practitioners couldn't get into nursing homes to go see their patients because folks being concerned about spreading the virus there. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services said, medical practitioners, nurses, and doctors should be allowed in those areas, in those settings, to take care of their patients as well. So I'm glad that a lot of red tape is being eliminated. And so from an engagement perspective, all our organizations need to be letting our people know what's going on and being candid about that, and specifically about how to deal with the layoffs as our community. As I said, no one organization can do it alone. We're in this together. So the DRC is doing an excellent job in partnership with other organizations, for instance, to create a website where, as folks are being displaced from the hospitality industry, if there's a need for their services in other industries, we can help get them absorbed there. I know one of our leaders in a construction organization talked about that specifically. So no one knows. There's so much uncertainty that things change day to day. But now is the time for leadership. Our leaders are stepping up, and I assure you, the leaders in our community, Bill and I know this, are working together very closely to make sure that our community gets through this. So again, it's frequent communication in times like this to keep employee morale up and getting employees really plugged into all the community resources to help us all get through this.
John, I heard Doug Parker speak a few months ago. He's the CEO of American Airlines. And he said, leadership is not being in charge. it's taking care of the people in your charge. And I think that's what we all need to be thinking about right now. Who are the people in our charge? They're the people that are our employees, they're our family, they're our customers. In our case, they're our members. Just doing everything we can to serve them the best way we know how right now. I'll tell you a little bit about how we're working during these times, and I will say that I'm not very technologically savvy. Those who know me best know this.
You're a lot better than you think.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but we are. You know, everybody's working remotely, but we have this solution called Teams, which is a technology solution.
Yep. Yeah, we have that.
You probably know about it,
Mhm.
but we were trying to get everybody up to speed, but we have to get them up to speed a lot faster than we thought we were going to have to, including me, and no easy task. But we do a daily senior team call for an hour with our senior team so that everybody knows what's going on, to get everybody's good ideas, because so much is happening so quickly, changing so quickly. And then our senior team has a call with their teams every single day. Our vice president of human resources touches base with every senior vice president every day, and then every employee every week. And so we had our all staff call today where everybody was on for a weekly call. And I asked the question, how's the communication going? What more can we be doing? What are we not doing? Let's make this better. And one of our young staff members, Natalie Pizzera, said, you know, I've worked remotely from home before, and it's really important to do video conferencing as opposed to audio conferencing. That really helps with the connectedness when you can see people's expressions and you know their personalities and so forth. And she also talked about this idea of a virtual happy hour, where people can get together from wherever they are and just have a little fun together. And she also talked about sort of an end of the week Friday update from the CEO about how'd the week go? You know, what were our successes? What are our failures? What are the new challenges we're facing? What are the new opportunities ahead of us as a result of what's going on? So lots of ideas, sort of come out of all of that when you're communicating. And I think what's really important too, and this is true of every company, is to eliminate any barriers or any friction between you and your customers. And for us, how do we eliminate any barriers or friction between us and our members? So it's a quick text, it's a quick call to say, here, I need you guys now for this. Or did you know this? Maybe you should be thinking about this. So the ideas can't come fast enough, and they have to come easily so that we can incorporate them and act on them to help everybody.
You're exactly right, Dale. We're all very familiar with the idea that the only thing that's inevitable in life is change. And of course, in this case, this change has arrived much more dramatically than any of us could have ever imagined. So we're learning we're having to acquire new muscle and new abilities and ways to do things. And that applies to our organization as well. We've always had all the infrastructure to work virtually. And remember, we provide solutions, cloud-based software solutions for our clients. So it's virtually and remote. It's, in a sense, it's in our DNA. And what we're looking to do at this time is help. We want to help our clients, help our industry, help our people, and then we share our expertise with member companies to help them get through this. We had a conversation yesterday, and I shared with you, for instance, that as we're working to stand up this website to help people have access to jobs and know where the openings are, I had volunteered that we have an army of engineers in our organization, and that are willing to jump in and help. And my topmost priority this year has been to promote this idea that business is a force for good. And I'm saddened that it's taken something that's drastic, something that's tough, to really help underscore that. But I'm also very proud, of our organizations, our member companies, leaders in our community. And I don't know what's happening nationwide, but Dale, you know, our region, the Dallas region, has always been a very special place. We are blessed with the right leaders. And I cannot tell you how pleased and how excited I am by how our leaders have come together on every single detail. So the message that I want to get out to the audience is the leaders in this community, political leaders, business leaders, community leaders, we are working together on all issues to get us through this, whether it's a very strategic issue or an issue that's tactical or in the weeds, anything in between. We're all rolling up our sleeves. We're in this and we're doing the right thing for our communities. And you know, I had a conversation with our leadership team earlier today, and I said, you know, if there are ways for us to even absorb people in our organization at this time, we're looking at that already because, and even looking to accelerate those, putting those opportunities out there. So if there are positions that we're looking at for later on in the year, we're saying, look, at this time, people are hurting. They need access to opportunities. Are there ways we can take a look at that and actually bring people on sooner as a way of helping in the community? I have no doubt that you'll be hearing more from Axxess, where we'll be, you know, leaning in and reaching out to make even more contributions to the community. That's just who we are. It's in our DNA. We've always led in this area, and we want to make sure we rally our member organizations and our friends to say, guys, this is a time to do more. This is a time to lean in. And I have no doubt that we will get through this together.
You know, John, I've known Axxess for several years now, and I've known you for several years now. You are the first example of business as a force for good, and sort of going against the grain sometimes. When other people are thinking about, we've got to cut people, you're saying we may take more people on, you know, to help the situation, which is so admirable and a great example for others. One way that we are helping out is County Judge Clay Jenkins called the other day and said it would be helpful if we had one of your folks embedded in my operation, sort of to be a link to the business community. And so the decisions we make would quickly be got back to you, and then and back and forth. You know, what you're hearing in the business community, I need to hear quicker. So we have deployed one of our public policy people inside Clay Jenkins' operation, and she is working there now every day. And again, it's just another example of working across, across different areas so that the good, the commonwealth, is achieved. It doesn't matter. Lines don't matter right now. Getting it done matters.
Yes.
So, John, I think we're sort of to the end. Is there any? Are there any closing comments you'd like to make?
You know, it's no different from what I said to get this going earlier, Dale. That it's important that we, I believe we're all in this together, and we will get through this. It's important that we have strong, coordinated leadership at this time, and we are doing that. I'm glad to hear that, and our community should know that all our organizations should be a force for good, and lean in more than you all ever have in the past. We're in this together. We will get through it.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you for your leadership. Couldn't be luckier to have you at the helm right now at the chamber this year at this time. And I'd just like to say to the audience that don't forget to go to our website every day, because there's fresh information there. It's information you'll need. It's information that you can use. And please don't hesitate ever to pick up the phone or to text us or email us and let us know what we can do to help you. We're here to serve.
Excellent. Dale, thank you for your leadership. You and the team at the DRC, you're doing world-class work, and I am glad to be a part of that work. And I know our community is well served with you at the helm at the DRC and with the team that you surrounded yourself with. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, John. And thank you all for tuning in.